is the Nutty Knife Guy. A little something different today. This is more of kind of a knife philosophy video. I'm not going to go out to the war post. Not reviewing a knife today. We're going to take a look at a specific brand and a specific type of knife. A general classification, if you will. Now, this is an overlooked brand, which hence the name of the video, the title of the video. The Gray Men of Knives. Of course, you're saying in there, this is the Smith and Wesson brand of knives. Now, knife people tend to either completely overlook Smith and Wesson knives, or if they're the knife snobs, they will. I'm kind of arranging all my Smith and Wesson knives here, but they will either overlook Smith and Wesson knives or malign them viciously. But for the most part, they're just overlooked, and that includes me, even though I have quite a few of them. Now, usually I have an idea a couple of days before I do my video of what I'm going to do my video on, but this week I didn't. And yesterday I'm thinking, gee, it's Sunday tomorrow, and I need to do a video. What am I going to do a video on? And I have a Smith and Wesson knife that I just got, that I have actually been EDCing, and I haven't EDC'd any but one Smith and Wesson knife, which was the SW7, which I have reviewed on this channel. I think that's the only Smith and Wesson knife that I've actually reviewed on this channel. And I carry that as a personal protection blade, and as soon as I get a couple of more tech locks, I'm going to go and put that into my EDC rotation, which is new for me because usually I just carry the same blade over and over again, but I'm getting to the point where there are certain knives that I want to carry and not have them sit in my collection all the time, and so I'm starting to rotate my carry knives, but that's a whole other thing. But I have been carrying this new Smith & Wesson, this first one, as part of my EDC for a long time now, and I was planning on reviewing this, and I said, well, I could just review this knife tomorrow. But then I was poking around on one of the many knife pages on Facebook that I belong to, when one of the posters put this thing up there, if Smith & Wesson knives, something to the effect, if Smith & Wesson knives are so bad, why do you see so many police and firefighters and EMTs and first responders carrying them? And I said to myself, that's a good question. And then I started thinking about all the different Smith & Wesson knives that I have that I don't carry, but weren't with the rest of my collection when I was looking at it. And the reason for that was this. I have Smith & Wesson knives in my bug out bags. I've got them in my little miscellaneous stuff holder in the car. I've got them in glove boxes. I had one in my nightstand table. One in a little toolbox I have. I'm not a do-it-yourself guy, but I do have a small toolbox. There was a Smith & Wesson blade in there. And the answer to that is that I would buy these Smith & Wesson knives just when I saw them, because they're usually inexpensive and fairly decent. And I would just put them places where I might need a knife, right? Where I might have use for a knife. And it turned out that the knives I was doing that with predominantly were Smith & Wesson. Not all of them, but most of them. And again, I asked myself the question, why? And that's exactly it. They're inexpensive, and they can be counted on to work. Now, the question about the first responders carrying them got to me, and made me think too. Why would so many first responders be carrying them? And the answer to that is they're inexpensive, and they're generally of decent quality. So we're going to kind of look at the duty knife thing. Like I said, I was in law enforcement, private security, armed security for a long time. I carried a duty knife. For most of that, my folding duty knife was a Gerber Armor. It was not Smith and Wesson. But I was a knife guy even back then, so I wanted to, right, so. But you do see a lot of Smith and Wessons. First of all, the Smith and Wesson is everywhere. They have a lot of different brands that kind of appeal to, I mean, a lot of different models that kind of appeal to, you can find something that appeals to everybody. And they're in Walmart, they're in Kmart, they're in Tractor Supply, they're in Rural King. You know, if there is a place that sells knives, chances are you can find a knife made by Smith and Wesson. Now, they're actually made by a brand called Taylor Company that Smith and Wesson owns, and most of them are made in China. But the thing of it is this, when it comes to the duty knife, and I'm going to define what I think a duty knife is and what it needs to be capable of. A duty knife is also a good knife, will also be a good knife just for your civilian personal protector or self-defender. I don't like the term self-defense, you know that. But the guy maybe carries a knife partially for self-defense, but also for, you know, everything that you do with a normal knife. Or carries a firearm and carries a knife as a backup weapon or as a firearms retention weapon. So they're easy to get hold of, they are inexpensive, and for the most part they're quite good. Now, I'm sure that there's been some Smith & Wesson out there that wasn't so good. That happens to every company, even Cold Steel. Okay. So, but this is the one that I was originally just going to review, and I will review this one. This is the model let's see, 114-8004-0521 Extreme Ops, and this is kind of a karambit thing. It's not really a karambit because it's got a Wharncliffe blade. This is the one that this is my newest one, and this is the one that I am going to carry and continue to carry. I'm not going to review this right now, but this is it came configured left-sided, and I kept it that way because I do carry this on my weak side in case I wind up fighting for my legally possessed and carried firearm. But also, this is better than your average karambit because of its blade shape. It's more useful. It's got a choil in here so you can do fine work. If you're not using it in your left hand for weapons retention, you can use this as a utility knife. Just a regular day-to-day knife stuff knife. And this leads me to what I'm talking about here. For the most part, especially the Smith & Wesson folders. Now, I have the SW7, which I have reviewed. Great little light, great feeling knife. You can look at the review. If I remember, I'll put the link to that review in the description. These run about $30, and they're a good solid design, and this is probably the best feeling handle in a knife in my entire collection. Like I said, as soon as I get some more tech locks, because I'm using tech locks on other things, and I love tech locks when I carry my knives, this is going to go back in my EDC retention. And then there's this one, which is the SWHRT 3BF, which is just a little boot knife or concealed carry knife for basically the same reason. I don't have the sheath handy, but it's just a good little last ditch knife, and I think this was under $10. It was on special somewhere when I was looking at knives. Right, but we're going to concentrate on the folders here, and specifically folders as a duty knife for the first responder, or just the knife carried by concerned civilian self-defenders. Now, for a duty knife, and first of all, duty knife. A duty knife is a first responder knife. You know, police, firefighter, EMT, or personal, or just citizen carrying it. But we're going to go with the first responders. firefighters, cops, EMTs. Right, now most of the time, something like this, or any of these others, are going to be carried for utility. They're going to be used, like everybody uses knives. Open packages, cut frayed ends out of shoestrings, peel apples, peel oranges, maybe even to pry something, or a makeshift screwdriver, and it has to be able to do that. Then there's maybe that 5% of the time where a cop gets jumped and he winds up fighting over his gun and uses that knife to protect his life, or to save another life, or to protect another life, or a EMT or firefighter excuse me, needs to cut somebody out of a seat belt, or something else that's has him trapped, and it is a life and death situation. And that's what a duty knife is. A lot of departments, you carry one knife. A lot of police departments out there insist upon it being a folder, which is stupid. But and a lot of cops are not knife guys. They just want to carry one knife, do it all. If then that horrible situation comes where they need to use it to save a life, theirs or someone else's, it has to be able to do that. So I have 4 criteria for a duty knife. It has to be convenient to carry. It has to deploy quickly and reliably with one hand. It has to be able to cut, and it has to not break. All the other features that you can get on a duty knife, or a duty knife, I'm not saying duty, on a duty knife, is they're all gravy. The seatbelt cutters, the glass breakers, all of that, gravy. Easy and convenient to carry. Opens reliably and efficiently and quickly with one hand. It needs to be able to cut, and it needs to not break. And Smith and Wesson's most generally delivered, in my experience they have always delivered on that, but I'm sure there's a bummer out there. Excuse me while I scratch. So now I was really impressed with this one, this latest one that I got. This was a little under $25 including tax. As I said, I carry this weak side, and if somebody grabs hold of my, this is an airsoft gun. Nobody freak out. If I wind up fighting for my gun and I'm yanking and pulling, and I start slashing at the guy's hands and poking this at his face. We've been through that before with the pocket strike by K-Bar. That's what this is. One of my viewers, I forget which one, called this type of a knife a great get off me knife. This is what this is. This is a get off me knife. But in this case, since it doesn't have a full karambit blade, and it has full karambit blade, it has a Wharncliffe blade, and it's designed so you can be comfortably used both ways. And I'll get into that when I actually review this. But as a duty knife, it is capable of utility. Very capable of utility, as well as being a get-off-me knife. And it's got nice, fairly thick, not great, real thick liners, but it's got good solid liners. It does have good lockup. Oversized ring for gloves. In this instance, Smith and Wesson, whoever designed this, really thought this out. It's got a choil for close-up work if you're using it for utility. So an excellent idea for a duty knife, or just an EDC folder for a civilian that wants to carry a knife and just wants to carry one knife that doesn't cost a lot. Maybe they're not knife people. And the price is a big thing, is why Smith and Wesson is so popular with first responders. Contrary to popular belief, first responders, cops, firefighters, EMTs, don't make a lot of money. They just don't. And not all of them are knife people. Not all of them are gun people. Not even all of them are gear people. They need their gear, and they need their gear to work, but they don't want to spend a fortune on it. Now, there are some out there that are gear snobs, and they're going to be the ones that are carrying the Fox 559 or, something by Benchmade as a duty knife, and more power to them. But then there's the guy who's a cop or a firefighter. He's got 5 kids. He's got a family to support. Right? He's driving a 30-year-old car. Well, not a 30-year-old. He's driving a 10-year-old car and trying to keep it on the road for a couple of more years before he goes, right? And he get that car on the road for a couple more years before he trades it in and has to get a new one, right? And still wants to buy his family that really cool karaoke machine for Christmas, right? Not going to want to spend $50 on a knife, let alone $100 on a knife, or $200 on a knife, or $300 on a knife if you're getting up to the microtax. He's going to want to spend about $25 on a knife that works. So, and Smith and Wesson has a lot of different designs, and so you can find one for your particular niche. I got this one out of one of my Go Packs. It has a partially serrated edge. I don't like serrations when I carry my knives, but this went in the Go Pack because it would be nice to have serrations. For instance, natural disaster, and I would be like maybe cutting cordage or cutting through clothing if somebody is injured and I had to get their clothes off, or just really heavy cutting tools that would completely dull the edge on whatever other knife I was carrying. That's where serrations come in. I'm not saying that, I never said that serrations don't have any uses, right? But this is a very comfortable knife. It's got a good grip. It's got a little thing here. The flipper becomes kind of a handguard so you don't injure yourself with your knife. I forget how much I paid this, but this was in the $20 neighborhood. And it goes in my pack. It goes in one of my bug out bags. All right, and then let's see. Now this is one that I actually EDC'd as a civilian for a time, and again this one had serrations. You can see this one's seen some use before it got retired. This one actually came out of my bedside table, the drawer on my bedside table, and it gets used for just regular knife stuff. Sometimes I wind up opening my mail in my bedroom. At night I have a bunch of mail. I haven't gotten to it then. Right, and sometimes that includes packages. Open this up, a letter opener, or just having it handy there on the bedside table. You never know. Now this one is optimized for first responders, like probably EMTs or something like that. It's got or patrol officers. It's got a glass breaker. It's got a seatbelt cutter, serrated edge, anodized aluminum, very tough, feels good in the hand. This was the most expensive one, and at the time I think I got ripped off, but I just really liked it and I had the money, and it looked cool, and I spent more than I should, even though I knew I was spending more than I should. This one cost me $40 and it shouldn't have cost me that much. But the owner of that particular survivalist store got over on me that day. I knew it was happening, but these run about 20 or 25, 30 like most of the others. This is a really nice EDC/duty knife, and it's very niche for people that might have to do some rescue work. Now this one is not an Extreme Ops. The other ones were. This one, well, actually, this one is an M&P, and so is this one. I don't know if M&Ps can be an Extreme Ops too. But at any rate, the Extreme Ops and the M&P are really geared towards the first responder. Now this is a cut and horse one, and this is another one that I carried as a civilian for a long time. I had a job where I wasn't carrying something that looks tactical like this. Wasn't an issue. Wasn't an option. So I carried this. This looks more like a pocket hunter. It just doesn't look as threatening in its design. But this is actually really nice. This was on sale at a Dollar General store just on one of those displays up by the cash register for $5. Where I also bought this cutting horse. I like this one a lot better. This one was in another bug out bag, and it fits the hand nicely. It's just large enough to be useful, and it's just a good kind of knife that you can have in a bug out bag. And it's not, boy, you know, it's not one of these knives that I'm going to dig out of the bag because I want to play with it and then forget to put it back in, and then God forbid I need the bug out bag and it's not in here. And that's the whole thing about these Smith and Wessons. If you're a collector, you wind up with a lot of these. You buy them because you're not going to be using them every day, but you know you can use them. They're inexpensive, and you can stash them everywhere. This one came from a Rural King, and I've actually just decided looking at this one that I'm going to EDC this one, at least for and put it in my EDC rotation, because I just like the look of this thing. It feels great. It's got the flipper for the handguard, which is a big thing for me. It's got nice jimping here. It's a really feel-good knife. This was on special for $10 at a Walmart. I mean, at Rural King. And it's a solid knife. Now, before this was in a kind of a junk drawer that I have. Well, not really a junk drawer. Just in with all the other bits and pieces of stuff that I thought might be handy, with, you know, masking tape, Gorilla Glue. This was just in there with that kind of stuff. And then when I got... Okay, another one where my camera shut off on me for no apparent reason. But yeah, this was just one of those things where it was into stuff that is handy to have around. And then I got it out for the video and saying, yeah, I'm going to try carrying this because I really like this knife now that I'm holding it and fondling it again. I never really got it when I first bought it. I never really got it out to fondle it. I just looking, yep, you know, it's Smith and Wesson. It's going to be fairly decent, and I'll just put it someplace in case I need it one of these days. And there's that. Oh, and this is the model 110062. No, make that 3 zeros. 110062. This doesn't say Extreme Ops or anything on it. It just says Smith and Wesson, but I like this knife. And then, you know, we've got a couple here that, again, just came out of Go Packs. And, you know, some of these are even, and it's a good thing I did this video, some of these are showing signs that they need maintained. They're getting some surface rust and stuff like that because they're in drawers, they're in Go Packs and things like that. This one was in a glove compartment. This is probably my least favorite of the bunch, but that doesn't mean it's not good. This would actually be a really good knife for, say, a woman to carry it in her purse, just to have a utility knife. Or I'm not a big one for carrying any kind of a personal protection implement off the body, but it's just really, really light. It's got a good grip on it, and it would do your average utility chores. If you just want to carry a knife, you know, for the sake of having a pocketing knife, maybe having to defend yourself again, this one is really light. This is the CK, the CK TAC, I guess it is, the CK TAC Smith and Wesson Special Tactical. This one's called. Not one I would want to carry for a tactical, but I mean, it would be adequate for that. And this one was also insanely cheap. This was like $10 from Amazon, I think. Just, you know, browsing knives, because I do that, and for $10, pick it up. All right, so I mean, just here, you know, Smith and Wesson knives that I have, and I think these are all the Smith and Wesson knives I have, but there are a few of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I got 10 Smith and Wesson knives here, and they're all under $30, and they're all adequate for doing general knife stuff. And in that instance where maybe a first responder does need to get these knives out. Now, I called this the gray man. I call them the gray men of the knife world because that's what they are. The quote knife community. Okay, memory card was full because I'm the nutty knife guy, not the competent camera guy. So, as I was saying, something like this, not my cup of tea, but I mean, it's got liners. It's solid enough. It's just not. Of all the Smith and Wessons I have, it's not my favorite, but it's not my least favorite. I mean, it's not my favorite, but it's not bad. As a duty or just an ADC for surveying knife, it works. And if you're not a knife guy, you're not spending a gazillion dollars. You don't want to spend a gazillion dollars on a knife. You just need something that's adequate, not super adequate and super adequate. With the latest flavor of super steel and made by dwarves, or whatever it is, however they use to justify $300-400 for a knife. I'm not knocking those knives. Like I said, I have expensive knives. They're really cool. I like them a lot. But there's a certain threshold where you're paying money for either a status symbol or as a collector for having something that high quality. But there's such a thing as quality you don't need. And for most first responders out there, past $50, you're probably buying quality you don't need. It's not to say you shouldn't do that, but for the most part, as long as the knife will cut and it won't break. Okay, that's the two basic functions of a knife: cutting and not breaking. So there's that. Now, the gray men of knives. The reason I called it that is if you're a tactical person, if you're a self-defense person, or when you're off duty, law enforcement or something like that, there's the gray man principle, where you're not really trying to hide, but you're not trying to draw too much attention to yourself as carrying a weapon or as being tactically aware. And it goes with the clothes you wear. Fairly nondescript, but normal looking. You just want to look normal, the gray man. Not black, not white, but gray, unobtrusive. And that's where I think these Smith and Wesson knives are in the knife world. Some people hate them. Yeah, some people, but I've never really said anybody that just loves Smith and Wesson knives. I don't love Smith and Wesson knives, but I don't hate them. There is just an ambivalence to them. They're just there. They're knives. And people carry them and they work. Nobody has any strong opinions, most generally, one way or the other, about the Smith and Wesson knives. Some do. I mean, they're saying, that's, Chinese made junk and it's, 17 CR3 MOGV steel and that's crappy steel. And some of them are saying, man, yeah, those are for, $20 to $30 and they're just as good as a Benchmade. No, they're not. And no, they're not. But they're adequate and they're just not sexy. Like for instance, as much as I like this knife, and I really like the concept and design of this knife, it's not something that I'm going to go like on knife forums and look what I just bought. I bought just Smith and Wesson model, whatever this is. Right? I have it. I like it, and I'm going to carry it. But it's not like if I went out and bought a Fox Dart or a Fox 559 or, the latest whiz-bang knife from Benchmade or Zero Tolerance. Hey, look what I finally got. Yeah. Right? Or, if somebody sees it, what you carrying? It's a Smith & Wesson. Oh, yeah, cool. And it goes on. It's not like, this is the Acme Wonder Knife. Oh, I've always heard about those. Can I see it? Does not happen with Smith and Wesson. But also, for the most part, people don't turn up their nose at Smith and Wesson. For the most part. Oh, wow, yeah, cool. It's like, yeah, he carries a knife. He's smart enough to carry a knife, but he's probably not a knife guy. That's what the reaction you get when Smith and Wesson. If you get a reaction, that's the thing. These are not. These are the great men of knives. They're unobtrusive. They're just there. People are aware that they're there, but they're not a hot topic for discussion on this forum and knife forum. People just have them. People use them, and people. But the thing of it is, if you bought one Smith and Wesson knife, you probably bought more than one. And if you lose one or you break one, you go back and get another one, because they've served you for a while before you lost it or you broke it. They didn't break the bank, and you can go out and easily replace it. And a Smith and Wesson that costs $30 that you have when you need it is 1,000 times better than that $300 Microtech that's on your wish list on Smoky Mountain Knife Works or wherever, that you don't have and you're not gonna have until you have bought that nice karaoke machine for your family for Christmas and saved up a whole bunch of money and figured out what you're going to tell your wife if she ever asks you how much that Microtech cost. Right? Now, but the Microtech comes bragging rights. Oh, look, I got a Microtech. And even guys that aren't like knife people, that are just general gear snobs, or they've been in law enforcement and they know a little bit about that stuff just because of the profession they're in. Ooh, Microtech, can I see it? What you carrying at? Smith and Wesson, Model X. Oh, yeah, cool. Now what they're saying is, yeah, if he needs to use his knife, that's as good as that'll get the job done. But it's nothing special. It's nothing to write home about. And that's the whole thing. Adequate. Like loved? Not really. Respected to a certain degree. But accessible and usable, and that's where Smith and Wesson. And that's where Smith and Wesson and Taylor brands hit the nail on the head. There are a lot of them out there. A lot of people carry them. People go back and buy new ones. They can't continue to buy these because they're not, maybe, like I said, they're not knife people, right? If they need another pocket knife or something like that, well, that Smith and Wesson had, did me well for 3 or 4 years. Didn't have to worry about it much. Just go with another Smith and Wesson. It's a brand that people recognize, even though Smith and Wesson, the same people from Smith and Wesson don't make the knives as do the guns. But Smith and Wesson have a reputation for making quality firearms, and that reputation is pretty well deserved. They do own Taylor brands, so people recognize Smith and Wesson. They're not. The knives must be pretty decent too, and for the most part, that's true. But it's a brand name that everybody recognizes. They deliver on what a knife or especially a duty knife, is supposed to do. And you go home and you still have some money in your bank account, and you haven't spent so much money on your knives that your carry gun is a high point. And that's the whole point. The gray man of knives. They're nothing that you're going to sit there and post endlessly about. I just got a new Smith and Wesson knife, but you're not going to apologize for having a Smith and Wesson knife, and you're not going to say, well, yeah, I wanted this and that. You might say, yeah, I wanted this and that, but you're not going to say, yeah, well, I know it's crap. But it's what I have. You don't get that. Yeah, it's Smith and Wesson. It's here. It works. That's it. But that is a really great niche to have in the knife world, because you're not depending on hardcore gear snobs or hardcore knife snobs or just good knife people. Spending a huge amount of money on your knives. but you do have a reliable type of customer base that's going to buy these knives and continue to buy these knives and do what I do with them. Just have them stashed everywhere because they work and they're inexpensive. And the thing of it is, I didn't realize how many of these things I had until I saw that question online and I really started thinking about it. These are knives that I'll just buy if I see and they're reasonably priced. I see a Smith and Wesson, and on Christmas in Walmart and Rural King and places like that, a lot of Smith and Wessons are going to be like on display, on sale. You're going to get like, 3 knife sets. You see them everywhere. And these are just one of these things. If it's a Smith and Wesson knife and it's marked down to $15 or $20, and I have that extra money, I'll just grab it. Not because I want it, not necessarily want it for the collection, not because I need it for anything in particular, but I can just stash it somewhere where it might be needed by somebody sometime. And when I first get it, I'll have a couple of hours where I'm playing with it because it's new and it's novel. And and now I got to remember to check the knives that are in my go packs and stuff more often, because a couple of them picked up a teeny tiny bit of rust. No big deal, but it's there. But if I see them and I have the extra money, I buy them. It's not something where I'm going to go, ooh, I have to find this model of Smith & Wesson knife. But if I'm bebopping along and I just bought some ammunition because I'm going to go to the range next day, and I've got all the other stuff I absolutely need, and I got $5 or $10, and I'm walking by and there's a Smith & Wesson knife sitting there for 10 or 15 bucks, even 20 bucks, grab that sucker. Right? Because it'll be useful for something someday. And that's where these things excel. That's why they sell so many of them. They're not conversation pieces. They're never going to be they're never going to be a knife you brag about. They're never going to be a status symbol. They're just good, usable knives that everybody can afford. And that's why they're always going to be putting new models out, and that's why they're always going to sell. Just something to think about. And if you're not a knife person that has stumbled on this channel, because most of the people that watch this are going to be knife people, and you're looking for just a decent pocket knife, maybe you want a name you recognize, probably 99 times out of 100, whatever you get from Smith & Wesson is going to be pretty decent, and it's not going to kill you on the money. So, with that, I give you my usual admonishment. 2. Draw your knives only in just purpose. Sheathe them only with honor, and remember that without knives, life would be dull and pointless. Please like, share, and subscribe. Feed the almighty YouTube algorithm. Help me grow the channel. That makes me happy. And I'm going to put the card. I put the card up at the beginning of the video. Watch out for my relative Brett Mounts, who's been missing. If you see him, there's the contact information's on the card. Check out my book, The Fate of Nations, Fireteam Alpha Book 1. God willing, the river don't rise. I'll be able to get the sequel out soon. And with that, I bid you goodbye.